Hey, what is up, Headhunters, executive recruiters, search firm owners, and anybody else who was unlucky enough to actually catch this live? This is the Headhunters and Boxers talking smack, and we are back, baby.
Yeah,
This is
we
David.
is.
This is David Seven Patterson. You know me as DSP, and then my brother from another mother, Neil Lebevitis. Hey, what is up, Neil?
Hey, well, what's up with the graphics? Like we didn't that was totally made by InVideo for starters, right?
Oh,
I
no, that
recognize
was a waved up video, sir.
really. What so we got rid of the beautiful headhunters and boxers and the music that I've grown accustomed to that jazzes me up. This was very mellow and relaxing.
Yeah, it was kind of a last minute addition. I figured I'd try something else new because we've been gone for like 3 months now, 4 months, and it's figured I'd try some new stuff, some new colors, new look, and yeah. And I want to do a new co-host, but I couldn't find anybody. So
It's funny you say that. I'm the same way, but it's good to be back after our breakup. It was tense for David and I for a while. David cheated on me. So I found him doing some other podcasts. I found out through my friends. We were out for drinks and it came up, and David and I texted. We ghosted each other. But it's like all things. We have a codependent relationship, and we were obsessed with each other, stalking each other's profiles and videos, and we're back, and we're as madly partner headhunters in love as ever before. So, David, I miss you, and happy to be back online.
well, thank you, Neil. I miss you as well, and for that, I truly am sorry. In my defense, though, I really was thinking of you the entire time, thinking how much I want to rub this in your face. Does that make it better?
I'm
I don't know
thinking
if
of
that
an
makes it any
Alanis
better.
Morissette song, like You Ought to Know. Like every time you hear this scratch on the mic, I hope you feel it. You feel it. That's a
I
woman's
feel
anthem.
well. I will say this. We are very happy to be back, and today we actually have a fantastic guest lined up. The one and only Dualta Doherty. We'll bring him on here in a few minutes to chat with us. He's going to be talking to us about things like virtual assistants, getting out of the daily grind of the recruitment world, how to do some automations and workflow type things that could be of value. And we'll be able to listen to his beautiful Irish accent, which I absolutely love. It's very
It's a great Irish
endearing,
rogue.
very
It's a
endearing.
great Irish rogue. Yeah.
It was like Irish Rogue. Is that what it's called? Irish Rogue?
You know what? I don't know. That's a word that came to my
That's
head.
how it.
But I think that's what they might call it. I'll have to Google it. But Irish accent is good. I thought you were going to say rogue, but yeah, no, it's a lovely Irish accent for sure. Um, so boy, since we've been off, it's crazy stuff going on in the market, for sure, like across the board, and so many cool posts and stuff to talk about. But miss everyone. This is a come back and watch us weekly. We're going to be having more guest content, less riffing and stuff, because we'll just have fun with the guests. But I'd say, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and bring them on in, and let's get to some
All
of the
right.
content.
Now make sure you get all of it. And by the way, anybody watching this, you can post in the comments. We should be able to see it, and we'll answer any questions you have. I hopefully at least one person will ask questions about leprechauns. If not, I may have to, because I need to know, are leprechauns real or are they not real? Dualta, let's get right into it. Dualta Doherty, everybody. You may know him from his podcast. He's been how long is your podcast burning now? What, 3 months? Or 3 years? 3 years. Something about 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years? Something like that.
Yeah, it took 3 months to get through your last episode.
Before
tell
we
me
start,
that you two numbskulls have been listening there. Irish Rogue. Where did you get that from? It's a brogue.
yeah, that's not a thing, is it, huh?
You two knuckleheads ended up in recruitment anyway.
Broke?
Yeah. Hey,
because no one else would take us. That's why.
Can you just say these words, Dualta? Can you say frosted Lucky Charms? They're magically delicious.
Oh, 33. Let's get it all out of the way.
Yes,
lad.
frosted Lucky Charms are magically delicious. Please.
Frosty Lucky Charms are awfully delicious.
Frosted Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious.
They're magically delicious.
You
Perfect.
call yourself a proud Irishman.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google Irish Rogue. I don't know where that came from.
So, actually, Neil, I think you might be right. At least something like a brogue or something. Brogue. I don't know. I have heard that.
Brogue, right? It's Brogue, right? Rogue.
Brogue. Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, Dualta. Hey, so with that said, I know some folks who may be seeing this may not know who you are. So give us a little bit of a thumbnail sketch or overview of who you are, what you do, and why they should know who you are.
All right. So we're supposed to be in our boxer shorts, though, right? What's happening? Why are we wearing clothes?
How do you know what we're wearing beneath the screen, my friend?
Yeah.
Oh, have I overdressed the occasion?
Yeah. We used to show our. In fact, when the show first started, David and I went on like Amazon and stuff. I bought like 10 pair of different boxers, but we were showing them. I think for some people, they'd rather not see our undergarments. And in the to err to the side of professionalism, we've stopped scrolling down. So we leave it up to the viewer's imagination of what sort of boxer we might be wearing.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
And unless you sign up for our OnlyFans page, where we do show the boxers portion of the show behind that paywall. So you can join our OnlyFans page, look for onlyfans.com / Headhunters. And there you go. And
Irish Rogue.
Display.
So what did I say about myself? So I've been doing recruitment thing for a little while. I worked in Australia, Canada, back in the UK now. Worked for big businesses, small business, set up by myself with my wife about 6-7 years ago. Started off with a rec-to-rec business, then did a podcast. That kind of blew up a little bit, and that turned into a community. And now I suppose what we do is we sell advisory, technology, people, back office support, you name it. We do it all for recruitment founders, mainly in the UK, some in the US, some in Australia. And I have a small team, all virtual team. So I have somebody in Ireland who's like a proper biller. I have somebody in Serbia who runs my rec-to-rec. I've got 2 in my marketing team, 2 in my operations / sourcing, and a couple of others. But my wife is kind of like a bit of the brains behind it. So I roll her into bigger businesses, and she does the complicated process mapping. Your automation thing works like this. I'm too thick to work all that out. But I kind of just roll her in, roll all the guys into the different things. And yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
So you're the face, and your wife is the brains, basically, right? That's kind of how that works.
Yeah, she's the face, the brains, and
she's the face too.
This is being recorded.
She's the name.
So...
That's about it.
Will I go get her? Because
I don't know. Like
I don't even know why I'm here.
It's not going to bode well for you in divorce court for the settlement of the business. So you might want to watch what you say for the inevitable divorce.
So yeah, it's been a big transition. You know, that COVID stuff was a nightmare because we used to move recruiters around the world, and then that collapsed. So I was like, what else are we going to do? And then we had all these lessons that we learned throughout the years, from podcasting to virtual assistants to using the right tech to the stuff you learned in big business and all the rest. So kind of just formalized that into a bit of a playbook, and then started helping out startups, and then bigger businesses needed point solutions. And then Charlotte started doing that. And we have 150 recruitment founders coming to a party in London, a COVID party in London next Thursday. So super excited to get amongst it. Have fun.
What are the big lessons learned? You're big on that, that you can share with the audience to sort of cut to the chase. What are some of your big takeaways from the last year and a half?
From different things that I've done, I suppose, on hiring people into like a fresh niche to setting up something. A lot on that. I think, you know, like if you're going to hire an experienced hire, don't bring them into like a new niche. You know, don't try and change as much as possible. We definitely had some lessons learned on that. We're all right now, but it was tough on that.
Are you niching more or less? What's a lesson there for you? Do you think the schools of thought out there, wow, the especially early on in COVID, that more is more, meaning diversify a lot more, don't niche, don't specialize. And then there's other people saying, no, now's the time to really focus and provide your core real value. And now the market, of course, has been, unemployment really low and whatever. What's your experience and the right answer from most of your people?
Well, I'm a big fan of niching down, because if it means that you're working with one data set of people, you're creating one or two marketing messages to those sets of people, and you're bringing them along a buyer's journey and a continued journey of it. So if you're not niched and you're a small business, it's different if you've got loads of bodies, but if you're a small business, every time a new search comes in, you're starting from scratch, you're up against an expert, you're dealing with all these things. And I just think life is a lot easier if you can just work in the one place. Now, you have to have the courage of conviction to be able to say no to stuff outside of it. And that's tough for somebody who's starting off or who is small and dependent on like what living deal by deal. But usually those who invest in it, they go better over the long run from other people I've spoken to, and what I can say.
Well,
I
one thing I'll say
totally
about it. Well, also this one thing I'll say about niching down as well that helps a lot is that from a marketing perspective, or if you're trying to engage your entire candidate like pool, so they're more likely to respond to you and know you. Again, it's a lot easier doing it with a defined group of people. A lot easier. One thing I will say though, folks who are trying to get into or to figure out if a niche is viable or not. And one thing that I don't think anybody really talks about is a competitive analysis. If you see other recruiters that are niche in there and they're successful, I mean, that's kind of the bellwether, really. And I think people start look at other folks, what they're doing, and not necessarily following them, but seeing if a niche is really viable or not. I am curious though, being rec to rec.
Sure,
And knowing what we know about recruiters, how it's kind of like the land of misfit toys. A lot of us really came from other industries because we didn't belong. We just found our way into recruiting.
a Charlie in the box, if you will.
Yeah, Charlie in a box.
Charlie
What's it
in the
like
box.
being a recruiting recruiters? Because it's got to be a really interesting niche, and I know it could be really have some pretty unique challenges involved.
Yeah, so probably, Neil, I had a quick look at your background, and like you worked a long time at Deco, didn't you? And working those larger businesses. So I think when you're building a recruitment team for yourself, there's a couple of different things you can do. But if you're looking for experienced hires that are going to be like a profit center, then recruiters don't get better by age working for other people. Like, I think you can get the best out of somebody in their first 1 to 5 years who hasn't changed jobs too much, who is a specialist in one space. And typically that's who everybody asks us for. So like they're 2 years in, they still have loads of gas in the tank. They are affordable enough to come in where their life costs aren't too expensive for them to accept maybe a more reasonable salary than if you're to hire somebody who's 40, who expects 50% of the billings, who wants everything, whose life costs are super high, and who has loads of bad habits from 7 different agencies. So in my view, and in the view of what I get asked for, it's always that. Give me somebody, second job.
But that's your demand, right? So let me flip the thought process a little bit. A lot of our viewers are looking to expand and grow, and they have too many orders, and there's just nonstop posts in the group looking for a recruiter to join their team. What's the best angle for them? Is that the right move for them? I know that's what your clients have. What do you think?
No, because a lot of them won't be professionally trained, so they won't know how to, without getting external help, in to get a trainer and get a system and get a process. And a lot of the stuff's in their head. It's very hard to translate that into a proper system that's going to help them scale their business. Now, I'm speaking generally, but this is just an observation. So the best thing that they can, if they're overrun with orders, you want to be looking at where can I hire somebody who's going to want the job, do the job well, and be appreciative of what I'm going to give them. Bang for my book is the Philippines on that. I think you get like you get a really good educated, especially the ones who are a bit more like they've gone to private school or a bit more Western. Like you can get some awesome people there. Eastern Europe too, you get some amazing, like well-trained recruiters. So you can build out those two areas depending on the type of profile that you're after. But you have to bring them into your team. You can't just go, you're my data person, and then just treat them outside of it. So it's almost insourcing instead of outsourcing. And we've managed to build up our team really well on that. So I've one in Portugal, one in Romania, one in Serbia, one in the Philippines, a few others scattered around. But it's taken a long time to get that team together and the processes and all that.
So let's say they don't go that route and they want to get that pedigree recruiter that looks good, book a business, work for a firm doing something similar. Is that just fool's gold? Meaning the good people really aren't going to leave if they're really producing there, and you're probably getting trouble, the people that failed elsewhere?
Well, again, I think you have to, there's a lot of fool's gold out there, right? And again, that's why you go back to the rules of these scalable recruitment firms that we work with. They always look for that second job or third jobber that hasn't had too much. There's still gas in the tank, but the job of the founder is to be able to map out the journey. So here's the business journey. We're going here. You're here. You can go here with me. And here's going to be the payout for you along the journey. So it's just about mapping that out and making it relevant to them, playing to the pain points that they're in at the moment. Like you're in a big corporate, you're not learning, you're doing the same thing all the time. You know, your commission split isn't as good as it could be. You're not, but it's only as good as the founder's story or the founder's journey that they can bring them along.
Now I will say this: the one thing I noticed, and to piggyback off that point, Dualta, and I learned this from Jeff Kay in the Stafford Rose organization, because he's really good at doing this. Is they built McCabe Aspen, which is a huge search firm in Dallas, and then they bought Stanford Rose and that whole story. So they've brought people with existing books of business. Say an independent recruiter had existing book of business. They say, hey, you're making $250,000 out of your house. But in our organization, because even though you're giving 50% of the house or whatever the deal is, but you're getting all these resources that you couldn't get elsewhere, plus camaraderie, the brand, the career path, you could build a team, and you could make $500,000 in our four walls. I think if you talk about why would a recruiter make a move? I know early on in my career, before I started my original firm, back when I was at MRI, I would probably have jumped at the chance to move over, because they had the career path. I think it says a lot as far as make sure the owner is focused on branding, has a career path, putting systems in place that the person wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. I think it's, for me, what I've seen, that's probably a big piece of it.
But you know what? But most don't have that, right? Most of the people who post, and I always think about this when I see them, they're an independent recruiter that's done really well on their own. They're growing, and like, we're expanding our team. Who, anyone, come talk to us. Why will, it comes back to what you're talking about. They really do need to give a reason to join. There's tons of independent recruiters that have grown, but that doesn't mean you're a great place to work for. So you're saying, even if you're that, you need to, right, be able to chart out what's in it for them.
Yeah, and I think to DSP's point, which I agree with, I think that's a different profile of company. So that, that's almost like you're already an entrepreneur. You just couldn't be bothered to do all of that, and you prefer to just bill. And those people are great, and they're good profit centers. But what they tend not to do for you is to mushroom out teams, and so you're kind of left with, would you like a business that's not really a sellable asset because it's doing 50 different things, as opposed to like, if you bring people into the one system, the one way of working, the one way of doing things, you can then mushroom them out and do like a McDonald's work process. But I'd prefer with my own company to go down the route that you're saying, David, but it just depends on what the end goal is. It to create a profit-centric boutique, which that's or is it can work. So
Well, can work. So to I guess to get a little more detail. So the way he's always done it is, the so let's say they want to get into plastics. So they'll go and find a plastics recruiter to lead that practice, and they build a business around that person. So you're still creating a profit center, but you're still building a business underneath them. So what you're doing is you're providing the opportunity. Hey, here's how we can put recruiters underneath you. You become a practice leader, and they map that out basically. So that
right, but
the
he
map
has like 60 recruiters, right? So my concern is for the viewers of our audience who doesn't have that. They're not offering teams of 60. Like what's their hook, I guess? And
so the first thing that they have to do is understand what they do. So they have to document that. So what is their cradle to grave process of finding a candidate, of finding a client, of when they've engaged in the process, what are the steps in managing that? They need to know what their way is. And if their way is all in their head and it's a bit lucky, they need to get help with that. And then they need to, when somebody comes in, they need to be able to work out what their ideal profile is. So is it that other person who has failed 1,000 times and might make you money, and should we hire them just because it's a hot market? Or should we hire the high potential person that can fit in? Because it's almost easier to train than retrain somebody with bad habits, especially in a good market. Because as you guys know, it's all about confidence. And as soon as they buy into the process and do the process, the deals will start coming.
What
about really good a job at that is Will Spangler. So I don't know if you Dualta, if you know him, but he's been in the Headhunter or the Herc group for a long time. Neil, I believe he's in yours. And so what he does, and which I think it's a good strategy. I mean, he's always posting about the Professor Fox team and about how amazing the journey they're on, the new people they're bringing in, and how everybody's getting a chance for ownership. And I think he was really initially it was just him, and then he brought on a couple of people as partners, and he's doing it. He's taking that route. So here's an example of somebody who's basically was a solo guy, and he was able to bring in a couple of existing relationships, offer them maybe, I guess, part of, I don't know the details specifically, but the way he's doing that though, and if you follow his posts, it's quite smart, I think. I think that's a way that a solo person can go about it. Yeah, because you're right, to your point, they don't have 60 recruiters, right? So how else can you sell the long-term opportunity?
Yeah.
Right. Well, Will sets up a structure, right? He's got a system that they've created and a full plan and a program. And I don't think most people talk about that to your point. I think they just say, come on in, I can bill and I need someone, and interview them. And he brings them into a vision. That's his beauty. That's why he has his success that he's had.
Yeah. It's ironic, I think, that the recruiters who are successful in recruiting create the crappiest job orders for themselves. I do find that a bit ironic, and they wonder why they can't find anybody.
Yeah, but some of them are so successful because they're just brilliant at doing the recruiting piece, and they don't want to take themselves outside of their business and start putting together all the different pieces. So I'm a big fan of giving away your marketing, giving away your finance, giving away top of the funnel sourcing if you can, and focusing that principle on what they do best. Talking to.
Should they look for someone to go into business with? Meaning, let me get the real deal. Let me not be solo. Let me be a partnership of 2 or a partnership of 3, and get similar people that complement each other and create our own new firm. Is more in that case? Have you seen?
Yeah. So standardly, like if you want to scale, what you would do is to find somebody who does temp, somebody who does perm, potentially 2 different niche areas. Like it might be one does life science, one does technology, or one does a technology niche and then another does a technology niche. But there has to be a plan behind it. So if it's 3 guys that just want to be a principal recruiter forever, it's never going to work. They're going to fall out and there's no point. If it's 3 guys that are willing to train and mentor people without experience into the business and start building out those little mushrooms, then you're on to something. So because then you've got multiple niches, the valuation of your business is better. You've got, when a downturn comes, everybody might be doing well in life sciences when it's not. Maybe everybody's doing well in HR or something that's a bit more steady. So yes, if you have a plan to scale, no, if you have a plan, if you don't want to scale.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen in a bunch of my clients that have 2, 3 partners, 3 independent recruiters that are together, they're killing it. I'm not a fan, as I should say, of someone that's leaving a big firm and they want to open up their own shop and they must have a partner. Typically, that's, to your point, without a plan. We're both in the same niche. They do it out of comfort because they're scared to make the leap on their own, and having a partner makes them feel better and take less risk. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a big fan, having seen a lot of success of people that strategically get together and say, together we can do a lot more separately. And they're not going to leave because they form this new entity. And look, you can't just interview someone and do that, but you can certainly work with someone, get to know them. No one's going to quit in 6 months because they all have skin in the game.
It depends on if it's 1-on-1 equals 5, or if there's synergy, that somebody's bringing in all the clients, maybe somebody's bringing in the candidate process, and there's a great mix because of that. But again, it depends on what the goal is, and can they reach the goal faster together. I'm not a big fan of 3 independent recruiters without a plan, running three desks that don't make sense just to be beside each other.
No, I agree.
Well, and I will say, when I started my first search firm, I had a partner, and I know we're great friends. He's still a great friend of mine, but I know that there are issues that come up where I think he's not doing something. He thinks I'm not doing something because expectations aren't met because we were young. We didn't set proper expectations. And that can happen a lot in these partnerships, and these can fall apart like it did with us. But I do want to ask you though, apart from, like, say, finding a partner in that, but let's say you're just a solo recruiter, and and I just had the conversation, by the way, earlier too, with a client, not to plug my thing, but he's a client of mine in Singapore in our tactical program. He's brand new, getting all this business, and he is asking me about how do I hire a recruiter, because he's in that situation where it's a good problem to have. Yeah. So in your experience, what should somebody do if they're a solo recruiter? They got a lot of stuff coming in. They want to start handing off some of their recruiting activities. What would you say their best course of action initially should be to start that process? What do they need to do?
Well, write a very specific job description. So that sounds obvious, right? But like, what do you actually want the person to do? So is it just recruiting? Is it account management and recruiting? Is it just sourcing? Is it a combination of all 3? If so, do they have to have all of those skills, and then itemize which one? But for him, like, go find like somebody in the Philippines, go on to Upwork, find somebody who's got experience working in a similar niche, and then just test them, get them going, learn your lessons, build it up from there. Like, if you're to hire in the Philippines, super hard, right? Or sorry, in Singapore, super hard. You can't bring people in from outside. The cost of living super high. So you would pay 4 times more for the same person in the Philippines or in Singapore than you would in the Philippines. So I'm a massive fan of the remote workforce, and there's so much talent out there that there's no point in overpaying for it locally, especially if there's no business development element to it. If you're the one who's able to go, hey, Mr. Client, we do this, this, and this, and the client goes, great, I need this, this, and this, and you go, great, I'll just introduce you to my account manager, and you have them trained, they know exactly what to do, and then you're just there as the figurehead, and this person develops over time.
Now, if you look at the recruiting functions, right, you've got not the recruiting functions, but just the job of recruiter. You've got biz dev, so you're out there getting new business. You're talking to clients, account management, submitting candidates, running the deals, closing stuff, right? But then you also, on the recruiting side, you have the mailers and the responding to the replies that you get, scheduling calls, and of course the actual screens and whatnot. So from that perspective, I'm a big fan of taking your not lowest value, but the portions of that you don't need to be doing. So from that perspective, if what would you say if let's say he wanted to bring somebody in who wanted to do the screens, right? Handling the replies, screening candidates, doing the initial screen, and then anybody who pass them over. That type of role, because I think is probably the one that the most recruiters get the most value out of, I'd imagine. What would you still recommend someone in the Philippines for that, or something more local?
It depends. So this is a really good question, and it depends on the actual niche. So in tech, it can sometimes not really matter, but so let's say you're doing finance or maybe something a bit more corporate. It can, and it also depends on the location. If he's in Singapore, it should be fine to have somebody in the Philippines. Stateside, I don't know. It's very niche dependent. For me, Irina runs our stuff, and it's no problem. And she's from Serbia, so that's been no problem. But it's taken a little while to get her there. So I think definitely Eastern Europe is capable of recruiting into America. So yeah. But I think if somebody's doing that role, the job of the founder is to make sure that they're being commercial on every call. So like, are they getting the right leads out of that? Are they understanding the niche? Are they joining those dots together, or are they just robotically going through something and then going, you're right, you're not? So yeah, loads to consider there. Probably mightn't have been specific in my answer, but it's
yeah. Well, the way I look at it, I guess from my perspective, I guess I'll give you my answer is that I probably will look at, let's say if I were in the States, I'd look for somebody in the States, like somebody younger, you wanting to, for me, I think I'd want to give them the opportunity to blossom into eventually a full blown profit center of their own, but they've got to go through like or learn the ropes at almost as an apprentice, right? And so, what does an apprentice do for a blacksmith? They do the crappy jobs because they're learning they're learning the trade, and they eventually work their way up. I think that'd be a good job, a good spot for, let's say, somebody stateside or somebody local to you, or at least in the same country. But I will admit, I've got 3 folks in the Philippines myself, and extremely capable. And so I think you find the right person, it can work. But that's my.
Just on to the thing with hiring people without experience. I think, like, don't be mistaken, anybody's listening, like, it's a tough gig, right? It's a tough gig to survive. It takes a lot to survive in recruitment for a long time, or recruiting, as you guys call it. So if you're going to hire some rookies, get some money together, hire 3 at the same time, put them through a gauntlet, and really drive them for 3 months and see who survives. Because you're gonna, for the amount of money time that you could waste in hiring one person, then they drop out after 6-10 weeks, then you start the whole process again. So it's almost more cost effective to just get them in, get 10-12 weeks of hardcore training, get them all competing against each other, and be left with maybe 2 of them out of the 3, or maybe 1 of them, or maybe all 3 at the end of it.
So we call that the Thunderdome method. Right? 3 recruiters enter, 1 recruiter leaves, basically. And if you get 2, you're even luckier, in essence. Looks like we have some news happening here. Gosh, Neil, I don't have the graphic ready. Oh, here we go.
November 23rd, 2021, and the news today. It's been a while since we've talked to about the news, but let's talk about what's going on here. Let me just give you a couple of quick stats. IT, lots of people in the groups on IT, lots of posts about how do you get into IT. Obviously, it's buzzing. Third quarter, IT job postings are up by 39%. This was from Dice. That's from last year at this time. Florida and Jacksonville in particular showing tremendous growth. Back-end developers, engineers being the biggest. I don't think a shock, but an interesting stat. Before we get into conversation, another one, jobless claims fell again. If you've been following this, is something we talk about on a lot of shows, so we can look at where the economy is going. Jobless claims fell to another post-pandemic low. Fell last week by another 1,100. It's, it's what you certainly want to see. And let's talk about this one. Well, I want to say one more economic story, and then we're going to throw out some articles and news to talk about. U.S. expansion, U.S. economic expansion is expected now to continue and is going to remain. This is from the Conference Board, the leading indicators. It's up again from August and September. It rose sharply in October. And again, you can just use these as indicators, but it's really showing that they expect to see it to continue into 2022 and think it might even continue to gain momentum. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about some interesting stories, though. I'm sure you all heard about this. This was posted after September. In the month of September, a record number of people quit their jobs, right? They reached an all-time high, never before released. This was by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 4.4 million people quit their jobs. Largest were in arts and entertainment and recreation, but it was all over the board. How does this affect recruiting? I mean, what's your take on it? Why do we think it happened?
What do you think, Dualta? What do you think? Well, I can tell you why I think it happened. I think part of it is because one, increased recruiting activity, right? There's more when people have more opportunities, are more likely to take those opportunities, right? I think that's part of it. I think a lot of it came down to a lot of folks working from home. I see it in my industry in SAP. I still recruit, and a lot of the folks I talk to are saying they want to come off the road. They want to work from home. They're used to that now. They like that. So I think that's a big part of it. At least that's what I see in my.
Well, it's just to shed some light on the research that was done on it. Job openings have not really changed to explain it, right? So it's not necessarily more recruiters, I guess, reading into it. There's something more behind it. Yeah. Good, Walter.
I think there are more opportunities. I mean, if you look at overall job openings, maybe because I know a lot of like hospitality is just still being gutted in major cities, but you have but on the white collar side or the technical side, I do think there are more openings. I think that's where a lot of the a hot growth is. But I think if you combine it with like some of these other industries that are dying, then it tends to be a bit more stable, right? That's the way I look at it. I definitely think there are more openings for sure.
To quote Jason Calacanis from This Week in Startups, or to paraphrase him, it's a really good podcast. I usually kind of keep up to date with US startup news there. They said that there's been more VC money pumped in the last 3 years than there has been in the total of VC money pumped into the economy before. So there's been also more government money pumped in, and a lot of the startups have had that. So what we've had this influx of money pumped into tech startups, life science startups, bigger than it's ever been. And at the same exact time, we've had a generation of people retire. We've also had a generation of people reflect on their life and go, I don't want to do that anymore. I might be a consultant in this, or I might be a consultant in that. And then we've also had a whole new generation of people coming into the workforce that have 5 part-time jobs, and they're happy enough doing that. So that's led to the scarcity of talent out there and the gross demand for the talent. So if anything, this is going to be the golden age of recruiting if you're a niche specialist.
Well, CNN covered this story. And one of the focuses that they had on it, and there's lots of conjecture about it and different guests, but a lot of the analysis that they think is going to play a role in recruiting and in the job market in general are wages. That people have been not really making a livable wage, and we know wages haven't been going up. Certainly, we have inflation and all that stuff. And their point was, the quote was, it strongly suggests that rising wages are going to be part and parcel of the economic landscape going forward. So, I think something to really think about there. All right. So here's another interesting one. Now, this affects the temp business, which I'm always biased to because I run a back office solutions business, an employer of record where you can place your temps with us. But lots of people in their groups, run temp businesses and they have issues with no-shows. So listen to some of these. On average now, and this was from Staffing Industry Analysis major national survey, 5% of temps are no-shows. And that's just the medium number. And if you look at the different niches, those people doing commercial staffing, 1 out of 5 people are not showing up. 20% of people are not showing up. Industrial workers, almost a quarter of people not showing up. Now compare that to 2% for IT, the profession where they show up. In healthcare, it's only 5%. But, I wanted to bring it up because A, it's really something that's out there. And I've seen tons of posts out there about people blowing off interviews and the no-show rate on the search side. What do people do to stop this from happening or to avoid it? Because numbers are numbers. They're statistically accurate, but we know good salespeople with good technique or good process can help fix some of these things. So that's my last sort of story I wanted to get comments on.
I suppose there's lots of tech tools out there. Like a lot of the major ATSs are bringing in automation that I suppose they constantly prompt and nurture, they would call it. I would say annoy the temps into like, you're turning up at this time, you want to be here at this time. And then there's different processes you can do with your consultants to make them a bit more proficient with it. But I mean, blue collar stuff that in temps at the moment, people are afraid of COVID, terrified to leave the house. No wonder the media is shocking. So no wonder people are not turning up. In technology, they can do it from home. And as you know, a lot of the times it's their own business and they're maybe payrolled through something. So they're not gonna lose a few bucks on that. But it's a complex question, hey?
Well, from my perspective, and to give people some perspective on it, I actually started my career doing staffing day labor. So before I got into the search business back in
Labor Ready.
Labor Ready. I think they're called True Blue now, I believe, or People Blue or something like that. But yeah, Labor Ready is where I started, and I have a lot of experience with those light industrial folks. Whether I was doing daily pay at some jobs where we did weekly pay, but yeah, we get a lot of that because the wind shifts a half a degree, and all of a sudden, like half my workforce doesn't show up. It's just the way things are. I do think a lot of people and typically in the lower skill set ranges, you have a lot of people that are not very content with social issues, and that can cause resentment against the man or just the system or jobs. You tend to get to see a lot of that now, and I do think a lot of people nowadays, especially younger folks, tend to a lot more of them now are living together, roommates, and so they don't need as much money. So sometimes the economic drivers aren't as strong as maybe they used to be. That's what I tend to see. But again, look, I'm not working in the industry anymore. It's been years, but this stuff from my perspective, I remember back in those days, one little thing, somebody's not going to show up. That's me. I will say though, I think apart from the automation that you were talking about, Dualta, have more of the human touch. I think when we over automate things, it can tend to people tend to not keep their appointments as much, even if you send reminders, right? I think the more you create a human connection with somebody, they're less likely to do you dirty by not showing up or not doing whatever, because you're a real human being, right? If you're just some faceless voice other than the phone and that barely talks to them, then yeah, they're probably going to skip out on you. That's my perspective.
All right. Well, the temp stuff, again, I'm biased to it. If you need to add it to your business, I'm going to say that it's not for everyone, but it does add your multiple to your business. You can place temps turnkey with a company like ours. Love you to check us out at backofficestaffing.solutions.com. I got a great ebook. If you haven't downloaded it, it's wonderful. It's a staffing by the book, shows everything you need to do to get into the business. It's really great resources. And you can find it at backofficestaffing.solutions.com. That's a mouthful. /staffing. Download that book. It's for free. We spent a lot of money on it, and it's really comprehensive.
Excellent. And well, heck, we're doing plugs. I'm going to go ahead and plug mine. So I actually have another ebook as well. It's actually a guide, a 225-page sales and marketing guide for recruiters. Go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/lighthouse, and you could download that massive, meaty, hefty.
That's 225 pages. Wow.
very
did you
girthy.
round it down from 226 to like 225 is a nice round number? Do you have to edit
Nice
it to
round
get that,
number.
or it was going to be what it was going to be?
Like, I'm not saying size is all that matters here, but I'm just saying it doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? Anyway, go download that. You can also look at when my brand new training just released it, and how to deploy seamless sales marketing recruiting system, digitalheadhunter.com/quantum-leap. So
Is
anyway,
Scott Bakula involved at all in this?
yeah, there is. I have a Scott Bakula image. That show, funny enough, ran 89 to 93, which were the exact years I was in high school, and I was a nerd. So I
Did you watch?
loved
Could I
that show.
say I binge watched it on Netflix, the entire series? Never over. I mean, I liked it when it was on. I watched a couple of them. What a great show! What a
Yeah.
really great show.
Neil, with temp business, you know, one of the things I'd say is I don't have a big temp business, but we've recently got to a point where our recurring revenue covers all our business costs and all our team and all of that. So when we wake up in the first day of the month, I know that it doesn't matter. Like, business will still carry on. And that's the easiest way to do that is to set up a temp business or have an advisory business like DSP or myself. And it is just the best feeling compared to being completely reliant.
Oh my God, it's an annuity.
Oh,
And there's so many reasons to do it. People who don't do it or won't try. I get people say, listen, I tried it. It's not for me. I'm like, well, hire someone where it's for them. But that said, that I get. Nope, we don't do that, or we're better than that, or I don't want to be bothered with that. I think they're crazy.
They're crazy because you're building an asset. And
it's a true asset. Yeah.
And
search isn't an asset. I hate to say, it's just not.
Yep, you're right. It's very hard to sell a direct hire search firm. A lot easier to sell a staffing company that actually has business. And I will say, for me personally, even on the higher realms, one of my biggest deals ever, it was I think $257,000. Now was a contract deal where I had a guy with a $40 an hour margin that was working about 2 years. Barely talked to. I may talk to him every once in a while, but it's just like clockwork. 40 to 50 hours every single week at $40 per hour margin.
We have so many people that are niche players, boutique players, or independents that even, are just specialized in, let's say, finance or IT, that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in extra income. But it's not even the extra income, because that's worth a multiple of 5 or 6. It's an extra $1 million in value that they've added to their retirement. And it also increases your multiple on your perm business if you sell them together. Whereas you can get a tiny one. You're not going to get a 6 multiple on your perm, but it's going to be more than the 1 or 2 or none that you'll get, So anyway.
Yeah, today's the best day to start doing that, for sure.
That's right. Backofficestaffingsolutions.com. Lots of resources for you. That's all I got today, David.
All right, fantastic. Well, Dualta, let me ask you this. So, what would you like to promote? I know we're in similar spaces in the training space, but feel free to promote your thing as well. I don't mind at all.
So, if anybody would like to find out more about our mastermind program, we run a 6-month program for recruitment founders. Usually, those under 5 in their headcount from a billing perspective. We take them through a cradle-to-grave process from strategic goal setting through operations, tech stack, virtual assistants, marketing, podcasting, building your own team. And we also do larger big business advisory. So my wife will go in, do an audit, work out where the weaknesses are, and work with you and your operations team over a period of time to get it going. So you want to find out more about that, just connect with me and my weird name on LinkedIn, Dualta Doherty, and we'll have a chat.
Excellent. Right. And then I'll say this as well for me. So we also do training as well, but it's a little bit of a different take. So for us, it is going to be sales, marketing specifically. Sales and marketing, both automated as well as direct outbound. We do a lot of that. We have a training program called Accelerator, and we have a done for you program called Tactical. So if you want to get pricing on that, just go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/assessment. We'll book a call and we'll talk about what you need, and we'll give you pricing, and we'll see if it is a fit. And with that being said, folks, I think that's it. Any final words, anybody? Neil,
I'm a way to get my ass kicked at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So
good for you. Well, we're going to
Excellent.
be doing our show back on our regular time on Fridays. And we wanted to get this one in before the holidays. And we have good guests that are coming up. And make sure you tune in and check us. You'll be seeing us regularly. And we'll see you all again a week from Friday.
All right, everybody. Thank you all. Great having you. Great being back, everybody. And peace out. See you, folks.
Peace out, everyone.